Captain Jake Morrison sat at the long metal table and watched the alien delegates argue. The room was huge and cold, with walls made of some strange blue metal that reflected the lights. 18 months he had been here. 18 long months of listening to these creatures tell him what humans could and could not do. The space station Concordia floated in the darkness above a planet called Kepler 442b. It was supposed to be neutral ground, a place where humans and aliens could talk and make peace. But Jake was starting to think that peace was the last thing these aliens wanted. Helen Carter sat to his right. She was the best diplomat Earth had ever sent to space. Her job was to make deals and keep everyone happy. But even she looked tired now. Her hands were folded on the table and her face showed no emotion. She had learned not to show anger around. The aliens. They seemed to enjoy it when humans got upset. Colonel Ben Richards sat on Jake's left. He was a soldier, not a talker. His job was to give advice about military matters. But the aliens never asked for his advice. They acted like humans had no military at all. Ben's jaw was tight as he listened to the aliens speak. The Zephyrian ambassador stood up. His name was Kethver, and he looked like a tall lizard with blue skin. He wore fancy robes that sparkled in the light. When he talked, his voice sounded like he was laughing at a joke that only he understood. "The human request is still impossible," Kethver said. "Humans have been in space for only 50 years. Other races have been traveling between stars for thousands of years. You cannot expect the same rights as those who came before you." Jake had heard this speech many times. The aliens always talked about how young humans were, how new they were to space travel, how they should be grateful for any help at all. The Vorthan delegate was next to speak. Vorthans looked like walking crystals. They were tall and thin, and their bodies caught the light like glass. This one's name was hard to say, so Jake just called him Crystal in his head. "Humans expand too quickly," Crystal said. His voice sounded like wind chimes. "You take planets without asking. You build colonies without permission. You must learn to ask before you take." Jake wanted to laugh. Humans asked for permission every time. They followed every rule. They filled out every form. But the aliens never said yes. They always found new reasons to say no. The Threx representative clicked his mouthparts together. Threx looked like giant insects with 6 arms and black eyes. This one was called something that sounded like clicking and buzzing. Jake called him Bug. "Human military is weak," Bug clicked. "Human ships are slow. Human weapons are simple. Why should we fear creatures who can barely leave their home planet?" Ben Richards made a small sound in his throat. Jake put a hand on the soldier's arm to keep him quiet. The aliens did not know about human military strength. Jake wanted to keep it that way. The arguing went on for hours. It was always the same. The aliens would talk about how humans were too young, too weak, too new to deserve anything good. Then they would offer humans something terrible and act like it was a gift. Finally, the Ethereal Council leader stood up. Ethereals were the oldest race in the galaxy. They looked like tall, thin people made of silver light. This one was called Zarthex, and he was supposed to be the wisest of all aliens. "We have decided," Zarthex said. His voice was soft but somehow filled the whole room. "Humans will be given 12 star systems. You must abandon all other colonies. You must move all humans to these 12 systems within 5 years." Jake felt his heart stop. 12 systems. Humans had colonies in 73 systems. Some of those colonies had been there for 20 years. Millions of people lived there. They had built cities and farms and schools. Now the aliens wanted them to abandon everything and squeeze into 12 systems like animals in a cage. 12 systems cannot hold all human colonies," Helen said. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the anger underneath. "We have 73 established settlements. Moving everyone would mean leaving behind everything we have built," Kefir made a sound that might have been laughter. Then you should have thought of that before you built so many colonies without permission. 12 systems is generous. We could have offered you 6. Or none at all. Crystal added. Bug clicked his mouth parts again. Humans should be grateful. Most new races get no systems at all. They must live on the worlds of others. Jake looked at Helen. She looked at Ben. They all knew this was wrong. But they also knew that the aliens would not change their minds. The aliens had made their decision before the talks even started. These 18 months had been a waste of time. Jake's communication device buzzed. It was a message from Earth, from Admiral Lisa Stone. She was the head of all human military forces. Jake read the message quickly. "We're done here, Captain." "Pack it up." Jake stood up slowly. The room became quiet. All the aliens looked at him with their strange eyes. Some seemed curious. Others seemed annoyed that a human had dared to stand without permission. "The United Earth Federation formally withdraws from these negotiations," Jake said. His voice was calm and clear. "We tried diplomacy. You chose to treat us as children begging for scraps." The aliens started to make noise. Some clicked. Some buzzed. Some made sounds like broken glass. But Jake kept talking. "We came here in good faith. We followed your rules. We listened to your speeches about wisdom and experience. We offered you partnership. You demanded our submission." Jake picked up his papers and put them in his bag. Helen and Ben did the same. The aliens were getting louder now. They seemed surprised that humans would dare to leave. "Remember that this was your choice, not ours," Jake said. He looked at each alien delegate. "You had 18 months to treat us as equals. You chose to treat us as pets. Now you will learn what happens when you corner a species that does not want to be caged." Jake walked toward the door. Helen and Ben followed him. Behind them, the aliens were talking fast in their own languages. Jake could hear confusion in their voices. And maybe something else. Something that might have been fear, but that was impossible. Humans were weak, remember? Humans were young and stupid and had simple weapons. The aliens had nothing to fear. From humans. Jake smiled as he walked through the door. The aliens were about to learn how wrong they were. 3 weeks passed after Captain Jake Morrison walked out of the peace talks. The galaxy seemed quiet. Too quiet. The alien governments thought humans had gone home to cry about losing the negotiations. They thought humans would come back begging for a worse deal. They were wrong. Admiral Lisa Stone stood in the command center on Earth. The room was deep underground, protected by layers of metal and rock. Screens covered every wall, showing star maps and ship positions across the galaxy. She watched the reports come in with a small smile on her face. "Admiral, the Zephyrian trade fleet has reached the edge of New Denver space," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster. She was young but good at her job. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel, and Admiral Stone asked, "They've stopped transmitting." All 23 ships just vanished from sensors. Admiral Stone nodded. "Good. What about the Threx listening post near Alpha Station?" "Gone, ma'am. Captain Chris Parker's team finished that mission 2 hours ago. No wreckage left behind." The plan was working perfectly. While the aliens had spent 18 months talking and making speeches, humans had been preparing. Every insult, every dismissive comment, every time the aliens treated humans like children had been recorded and remembered. Now it was time to show the galaxy what humans could really do. General Chris Parker commanded the fast attack fleets. His ships were not like the big, slow vessels the aliens expected. Human ships were small, quick, and almost impossible to detect. They used new technology that the aliens did not know existed. Parker's flagship, the Hughes Lightning, floated in empty space near a Vorthan mining station. The station was huge, carved out of an asteroid, and home to thousands of crystal beings. But it was also a military target. The Vorthans used it to build weapons and spy on human colonies. "All ships, this is Parker," he said into his communicator. "Remember the rules, no civilian targets. We're not monsters like they think we are, but anything military is fair game." The attack took 12 minutes. The human ships appeared as if from nowhere, destroyed the military sections of the station, and vanished before the Vorthans could even send a distress call. The civilians were left alive, but without weapons or communication equipment. Captain Amy Foster had been promoted after her good work in the command center. Now she had her own ship, the UES Shadow. It was a stealth destroyer, built for missions that nobody was supposed to know about. Her target was a Threx spy base hidden in an empty star system. The bug-like aliens thought it was secret. They thought humans were too stupid to find it. But humans had known about the base for 3 years. They had been watching and learning and planning. No survivors to interrogate, no wreckage to analyze, Foster told her crew as they prepared for the attack. They wanted to play games with our lives. Now they get to play guessing games with their own security. The Threx base died in silence. The aliens inside never knew what hit them. One moment they were listening to human communications and making plans to attack human colonies. The next moment, they were space dust. But the real surprise was not the attacks. The real surprise was what the attacks revealed about human technology. Dr. Kevin Walsh had spent 10 years working in secret laboratories. While aliens thought humans were struggling with basic space travel, Walsh and his team had been developing weapons that could change the course of wars. The quantum displacement drives let human ships appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. The adaptive AI systems could hack alien computers faster than alien minds could think. And the molecular disruption weapons could shut down alien biology at the cellular level. But even that was not the biggest secret. Colonel Susan Baker stood in front of a huge holographic display. The display showed the galaxy with little lights marking human colonies. The alien delegates at the peace talks had seen this map. They thought the 37 lights represented all human settlements. Baker touched a control and the display changed. Now it showed over 300 lights scattered across the galaxy. Hidden colonies, underground cities, mobile fleet bases, asteroid habitats that looked like rocks from the outside, but held millions of people inside. The aliens thought we had 37 colonies, Baker told her staff. They offered us 12 systems like they were being generous. They never bothered to count how many colonies we actually have. Every hidden human settlement had been built for war. The aliens saw farmers and miners and thought humans were peaceful. They did not see the weapons factories hidden underground. They did not notice that every civilian transport ship could be converted to a warship in hours. They missed the defense platforms disguised as communication satellites. Captain Ron Hayes commanded the Commerce Raiders. His job was to disrupt alien trade without killing civilians. His ships would intercept alien cargo vessels, take their goods, and send the ships home empty. Sometimes they would redirect entire convoys to human space, where the cargo would be distributed to human colonies. "It's not piracy," Hayes told his captains. "It's economic warfare. They want to starve us out by controlling trade routes. We're just returning the favor." The results were immediate. Alien governments that had seemed so powerful and confident 3 weeks ago were now scrambling to understand what was happening. Their military bases were disappearing. Their trade was being disrupted. Their spy networks were going silent, and they had no idea how humans were doing it. General Tony Clark revealed the next surprise. The strategic defense grid had been built over 20 years, disguised as civilian installations. Power plants that were actually weapons platforms. Communication arrays that were really sensor networks. Shipping centers that could launch military spacecraft. When activated, the grid turned human space into a fortress. But it did more than just defend. It projected power far beyond human borders, letting human forces strike anywhere in the galaxy and return home safely. The aliens had spent 18 months studying human weaknesses. They had cataloged every human ship, counted every human weapon, and calculated that humans could be defeated easily. But they had been studying fake information. The humans they met at the peace talks were actors playing a role. The ships they saw were the oldest and weakest in the human fleet. The weapons they analyzed were obsolete models that humans no longer use. While the aliens were making speeches about human weakness, humans were preparing for war. Every alien system had been mapped. Every alien military base had been infiltrated. Every alien trade route had been studied and memorized. The galaxy was about to learn that underestimating humans was a mistake that could cost them everything they had built over thousands of years. The species that the aliens had dismissed as young and weak was about to show them what apex predators could do when they stopped pretending to be prey. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaos. Representatives from dozens of alien species filled the great chamber, all talking at once. Their voices mixed together in a symphony of fear and confusion. What had seemed impossible 3 weeks ago was now happening across the galaxy. Council leader Zarthek stood at the center of the chamber. The ancient ethereal silver light flickered like a candle in the wind. For the first time in his 1,000-year life, he looked uncertain. The reports that flooded in every hour painted a picture that none of them wanted to believe. 6 Vorthan. Mining operations destroyed in 1 day, announced a crystal delegate. His voice shook like broken glass. No warning. No demands. They simply appeared, struck, and vanished. We cannot even find debris to study. The Threx representative clicked his mandibles nervously. Our communication networks are failing. Human cyber attacks have infected our systems. They know our military positions better than we do. How is this possible? Ambassador Kethver of the Zephyrians paced back and forth. His blue scales had turned pale. My fleet commanders report that human ships phase in and out of reality. They attack from impossible angles. Our best weapons cannot target them. Commander Veltar, the highest-ranking Zephyrian military officer, had been summoned to explain the disasters. He stood before the council looking like a warrior who had seen ghosts. The humans do not fight like any species we have encountered. Veltar reported, they do not announce themselves. They do not issue challenges. They strike without warning and disappear before we can respond. My ships fire at empty space while human weapons tear them apart. But how? Demanded Zarthex. Our intelligence reports showed that humans have primitive technology. Their ships are slow. Their weapons are simple. How can they defeat forces that have conquered galaxies? Veltar's voice was quiet. Our intelligence was wrong. Everything we thought we knew about humans was wrong. The truth was starting to become clear, piece by piece, through reports from across alien space. The humans they had dismissed as weak newcomers had been playing a game much more complex than any alien had imagined. A Vorthan intelligence officer stepped forward. His crystal body was cracked from stress. We have analyzed the attack patterns. The humans are not randomly striking targets. They are systematically dismantling our military infrastructure while avoiding civilian casualties. This requires detailed knowledge of our operations. Knowledge they should not possess, added a Threx spy master. Our most secret bases are being eliminated. Facilities that do not exist on any public record. The humans must have been watching us for years. The most frightening report came from the Outer Rim territories. Human commerce raiders, led by someone the aliens only knew as Hayes, were crippling trade across multiple sectors. But they were not simply destroying cargo ships. They were redirecting them. Entire convoys are arriving at human colonies instead of their intended destinations, reported a trade representative. The humans take what they need and send the ships home empty. They are turning our own supply lines against us. But the worst revelation was yet to come. Dr. Nora Mitchell had worked with the Galactic Council for 5 years. She was a human scientist who studied alien biology and culture. The aliens had trusted her. They had shared secrets with her. They had thought she was one of the few good humans who understood her place in the galaxy. Now, her face appeared on screens across alien space. Her message was broadcast on every frequency, in every alien language. The woman who had smiled and worked peacefully alongside aliens for years now showed a different face entirely. "You had 18 months to treat us as equals," Mitchell said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were cold. "You chose to treat us as pets. You acted like we should be grateful for scraps from your table. You laughed when we asked for fair treatment." The aliens listening to her message felt something they had not experienced in centuries: fear of a species they had considered inferior. "Now, you will learn what apex predators do when cornered," Mitchell continued. "We tried to be civilized. We followed your rules. We filled out your forms. We listened to your speeches about wisdom and experience. But you never intended to treat us fairly. You saw us as a problem to be managed, not as equals to be respected." The broadcast ended, but its effect rippled across the galaxy. Human agents who had worked peacefully in alien governments for years suddenly revealed their true purpose. Human businesses that had seemed harmless began coordinating economic warfare. Human colonies that had appeared weak and isolated showed their hidden military strength. The economic damage was becoming catastrophic. Captain Ron Hayes and his raiders were not just stealing cargo. They were disrupting the entire fabric of galactic trade. Supply chains that had operated smoothly for millennia were collapsing. Planets that depended on imported food were facing shortages. Industrial worlds were running out of raw materials. "They know exactly what to take and when to take it," reported the chief economist of the Vorthan Collective. "This is not random piracy. They understand our economic system better than we do." The aliens began to realize the scope of their mistake. For 50 years they had watched humans expand into space. They had seen human ships, human colonies, human traders. They had cataloged human technology and counted human military assets. But they had been seeing only what humans wanted them to see. While aliens made speeches about human weakness, humans had been quietly infiltrating every level of alien society. Human scientists worked in alien laboratories. Human traders mapped alien supply routes. Human diplomats studied alien psychology and culture. Human spies learned the location of every military base and the schedule of every patrol. The aliens had thought they were the teachers and humans were the students. The truth was the opposite. Humans had been studying their teachers, learning their weaknesses, and preparing for the day when the lessons would end. General Tony Clark's revelation of the strategic defense grid was the final shock. The automated defense platforms that protected human space had been built over decades. They had been disguised as civilian installations, hidden in plain sight while alien inspectors walked past them without understanding what they were seeing. When activated, the grid did not just defend human territory. It projected power across the galaxy, allowing human forces to strike anywhere and return safely home. The aliens who had spent centuries building their empires were discovering that humans had built something even more impressive in just 50 years. The most terrifying realization was that humans were still holding back. The attacks on alien military targets were surgical and precise. No civilian populations had been harmed. No alien homeworlds had been threatened. Humans were demonstrating their power while showing restraint, but that restraint came with an unspoken message. "We could destroy you completely if we chose to. We are being merciful. Do not mistake mercy for weakness." The galaxy that had dismissed humans as young and naive was learning that sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones that let you Think you are safe right up until the moment they decide to stop pretending. 3 months had passed since humanity withdrew from the peace talks. The galaxy was beginning to understand that what they faced was not a simple military conflict. It was something much worse. It was the awakening of a sleeping giant that had been pretending to be weak. General Tony Clark stood in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth. The room hummed with activity as officers coordinated operations across hundreds of star systems. On the main screen, a three-dimensional map of the galaxy showed the true extent of human presence for the first time. Strategic Defense Grid is now fully active, reported Major Pete Williams, the chief engineer. All hidden platforms are online. Defense networks are operational in 412 systems. The aliens watching their intelligence feeds could not believe what they were seeing. Installations they had dismissed as power plants or communication towers were revealing their true nature. Massive weapons platforms rose from seemingly empty asteroids. Hidden shipyards began launching vessels that dwarfed anything aliens had seen humans build before. Captain Maria Santos led the intelligence division that had spent 30 years infiltrating alien society. Her teams had worked as traders, scientists, diplomats, and even janitors in alien facilities. They had mapped every important installation, recorded every security protocol, and identified every weakness in alien defenses. Phase 3 intelligence reveals are beginning now, Santos reported to General Clark. Our people embedded in alien governments are uploading their complete files. Every alien military secret from the past 30 years will be in our databases within the hour. The revelation that humans had been living and working among aliens for decades sent shockwaves through alien governments. Trusted advisors revealed themselves as human agents. Security officers who had protected alien leaders for years transmitted classified information to human command. Even some alien military commanders discovered that their closest aides were actually humans using advanced, disguised technology. But the most devastating revelation was yet to come. The Zephyrian Empire had decided that enough was enough. They would show the galaxy that humans could be defeated with overwhelming force. Admiral Kefvos assembled the largest fleet in Zephyrian history. 2,000 ships, including their most advanced battlecruisers and their legendary dreadnought vessels. Target was Titan's Gate, a human colony world that the Zephyrians believed was only lightly defended. Intelligence reports showed a small human garrison and maybe 300 defensive vessels. It seemed like an easy victory that would restore alien confidence. Admiral Kefvos stood on the bridge of his flagship as the massive fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Titan's Gate system. The sight should have terrified any human defenders. 2,000 alien warships stretching across space like a metal storm cloud. Human vessels detected, reported his tactical officer. Approximately 300 ships, as predicted. They are moving to intercept. Kefvos laughed. 300 against 2,000. The humans have lost their minds. All ships, prepare to demonstrate the power of the Zephyrian Empire. What happened next would be studied by military academies for centuries. The human ships did not behave like any vessels the Zephyrians had ever fought. They moved in perfect coordination, as if controlled by a single mind. Their weapons fired with impossible accuracy. Their shields adapted to incoming attacks in real time, becoming stronger with each hit they absorbed. But the real shock came when the Zephyrian weapons hit human ships and did nothing at all. Admiral, our plasma cannons are having no effect, the weapons officer reported. The human shields are absorbing our energy and somehow converting it to power their own systems. Impossible, Kefvos snarled. Increase firepower. Focus all batteries on single targets. The Zephyrian fleet unleashed everything they had. Enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. The energy weapons lit up space like a second sun. Missile barrages that could level continents streaked toward the Human defenders. The human ships absorbed it all and asked for more. Then the human ships began to fight back. The weapons they used were unlike anything in the alien databases. Beams of energy that seemed to reach through shields and disable ships from the inside. Projectiles that phased through armor and exploded inside enemy hulls. Devices that created gravity wells, crushing alien vessels like tin cans. In 4 hours, the pride of the Zephyrian Empire was reduced to debris and escape pods. 2,000 ships became scattered wreckage. The 300 human defenders had not lost a single vessel. Admiral Lisa Stone's message to the surviving Zephyrians was broadcast across the galaxy. You came with overwhelming numbers against what you thought was a single colony's defense, Stone said from her command center on Earth. You discovered that every human world is protected by technology you didn't know existed. You learned that our tactics are beyond your understanding. And you realized that what you call one defense fleet is actually part of a coordination network that links every human settlement across the galaxy. The Battle of Titan's Gate broke the spirit of alien resistance. But it also revealed something even more terrifying. The human ships at Titan's Gate had not used their full power. Analysis of the battle showed that human weapons had operated at only 30% capacity. The defenses that had effortlessly destroyed 2,000 alien ships were holding back. Engineer Pete Williams explained the reality to stunned alien observers in a broadcast that reached every corner of the galaxy. Our ships don't just have better weapons, Williams said. They have adaptive systems that analyze enemy technology while you're shooting at us. Every shot you fire teaches our computers how to defend against it better. Every tactic you use gets added to our tactical database. By the time you realize you're losing, we've already learned everything your weapons can do. The revelation of human adaptive technology explained how 300 ships could defeat 2,000. But it raised an even more frightening question. If humans could adapt to any alien technology in real time, how could they ever be defeated? The answer, alien strategists realized with growing horror, was that they could not be defeated. Not with conventional tactics, not with overwhelming numbers, not with superior technology. Humans had built their entire military philosophy around the concept of adaptation and improvement. Every battle made them stronger. Captain Amy Foster, now commanding a full battle group, demonstrated this principle when she encountered a Vorthan crystal fleet near the Andromeda Jump Gate. The crystal ships used weapons that manipulated light itself, creating laser arrays that could cut through any known material. Foster's ships absorbed the first attack, analyzed the light-based weapons, and then began generating counter-frequencies that turned the Vorthan lasers against themselves. Within minutes, the crystal ships were being destroyed by their own reflected weapons. Every species in the galaxy has spent thousands of years perfecting their military technology, Foster reported after the battle. They built weapons and tactics designed to fight enemies they understood. But we built weapons designed to fight enemies we had never met before. We prepared for the unknown. They prepared for the familiar. The galaxy was learning that humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology. It was their mindset. Other species had built empires and then tried to maintain them. Humans had built systems designed to grow and adapt and overcome any challenge, while aliens had spent centuries fighting each other with the same basic strategies. Humans had spent decades preparing to fight everyone at once. They had studied every alien species, learned from every alien strength, and prepared counters for every alien weakness. The worst realization for the aliens was that humans were still not fighting at full capacity. The devastating defeats they had suffered were the result of humanity operating with restraint. The question that terrified alien leaders was simple and horrible. What would happen if humans stopped holding back? 6 months had passed since Captain Jake Morrison walked out of the peace talks. The galaxy that had dismissed humanity as weak newcomers was now on its knees. begging for mercy from the species they had tried to cage. The Galactic Council chamber was nearly empty. Half the member species had already surrendered individually to human forces. The others sat in stunned silence, watching their 1,000-year-old civilization crumble around them. Trade had stopped. Military fleets had been destroyed or had fled to the outer rim. Even the mighty ethereals who had ruled the galaxy for millennia seemed small and afraid. Ambassador Rachel Moore stood at the center of the chamber. She had been silent during the original negotiations, watching and learning while Jake Morrison did the talking. Now she was humanity's voice, and her words carried the weight of the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. 6 months ago, you offered us 12 star systems, Moore said. Her voice was calm but filled with authority. You wanted to give us 12 systems out of pity, like throwing scraps to a hungry dog. You thought you were being generous. Council leader. Zarthex flickered weakly. The ancient ethereal who had once seemed wise and powerful now looked like a dying candle. Ambassador Moore, we are prepared to discuss new terms. Perhaps we were too hasty in our previous offer. Moore smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Too hasty? You spent 18 months insulting us. 18 months treating us like children who should be grateful for whatever you decided to give us. And now, after we have demonstrated what we are truly capable of, you want to discuss new terms? The remaining alien delegates shifted nervously. They had all seen the reports. Human forces now controlled over 400 star systems. Alien. Military bases across the galaxy had been systematically destroyed. Trade routes that had operated for thousands of years were now under human control. What do you want? Whispered a Vorthan representative. His crystal body was cracked and dim. Name your price for peace. Moore walked to the great viewing window that showed the space around the station. Where once alien warships had patrolled, now human vessels maintained order. The U's Defiance, a massive battle cruiser, hung in space like a metal moon. Its weapons could crack planets, but it simply waited, patient and silent. Our price, Moore said. Full recognition of all human territorial claims. That includes every colony we have built, every world we have settled, and every system we have claimed. No exceptions, no negotiations. That would mean over 400 systems, gasped a Threx representative. Nearly a third of known space. Then you should have counted better before you offered us 12, Moore replied. General Paul Anderson stepped forward. He wore the uniform of Earth's military command, and his presence filled the chamber with quiet authority. The aliens had learned to fear humans in military uniforms. They had learned that human soldiers did not make empty threats. Let me explain. The new reality, Anderson said. You thought our rapid expansion meant we were desperate. The truth is that we expand rapidly because we are very good at it. Every human colony you dismissed as insignificant had the industrial capacity to build warships. Every human trader you sneered at was mapping your defenses. Every human diplomat you ignored was counting your weaknesses. The aliens listened in silence. They had no choice but to listen. We offered you partnership, Anderson continued. We came to you in good faith, ready to work together as equals. You demanded our submission instead. You wanted us to bow down and accept whatever scraps you threw our way. Ambassador Kefver of the Zephyrians spoke up, his voice weak and defeated. We did not understand your true capabilities. If you had known, you would have treated us with respect? Moore interrupted. No, you would have tried to destroy us before we became a threat. The only reason you are offering peace now is because you have learned that you cannot win a war against us. The truth of her words hung in the air like a physical weight. The aliens had not experienced a change of heart about human rights. They had simply learned that humans were too dangerous to fight. Dr. Kevin Walsh, the scientist who had developed humanity's most advanced weapons, joined the delegation via hologram from Earth. His image appeared in the center of the chamber, and several aliens flinched when they saw him. They had learned that human scientists were just as dangerous as human soldiers. "The weapons we have used so far represent about 10% of our actual capability," Walsh said casually. "We have been fighting with restraint because we prefer not to commit genocide. But if this war continues, we will be forced to use more advanced systems. I do not think you would enjoy the results." The implied threat was clear. Humans could destroy alien civilizations completely if they chose to. The fact that they had not done so already was an act of mercy, not weakness. The terms humanity presented were harsh but fair. Full recognition of human territorial claims, reparations for the resources wasted during the pointless negotiations, open trade agreements that favored human colonies, and most importantly, formal acknowledgement that humanity would be treated as an equal power in all future galactic affairs. "These terms are non-negotiable," Moore stated. "You have 48 hours to accept them. If you refuse, we will assume you prefer to continue the war." The threat was not subtle. Everyone in the chamber knew what continued war would mean. Total alien defeat. The destruction of everything they had built over thousands of years. The end of their civilizations as independent powers. One by one, the alien delegates agreed to the terms. They had no choice. The alternative was extinction. The signing of the new Concordia Accords took place in the same chamber, where aliens had once dismissed human demands. But now humans sat at the head of the table while aliens waited for permission to speak. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, delivered the final statement that would become legendary throughout human space. "We offered you partnership," Morrison said, looking at each alien delegate in turn. "You demanded our submission. The difference between those two things is why your children will learn human history in school, and ours will barely remember your names." The galaxy had learned a lesson that would echo through the centuries. Power respected strength, not weakness. Diplomacy worked only between equals. And the most dangerous enemy was the one who let you believe you were winning, right? Up until the moment you realized you had already lost. The epilogue came 6 months later. Human expansion continued at an even faster pace. But now alien species requested permission to settle in human space. They wanted the protection and prosperity that came with humanity's efficient administration. The tables had turned completely. The species that had once been dismissed as young and weak now welcomed refugees from the civilizations that had thought themselves superior. The galaxy had a new order, and humanity was at the center of it. Not because they had conquered through cruelty, but because they had proven that competence and preparation could overcome any advantage that age and arrogance might provide. The universe was a dangerous place, but it was much safer when humans were in charge.